Welcome back, everyone. So, we keep getting closer, day by day, week by week, to the release of Innistrad, Midnight Hunt, as well as Innistrad, Crimson Vow. Now, as we creep closer, I want to talk about the lore more, explore the characters, and see what crazy antics some of them get into. Some of them don't. We'll see. But before we get into the video, guys, just want to let you know, if you like my content, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of my videos, feel free to hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when new videos are coming up, please hit the bell icon to be notified. Thank you, guys. Anyways, let's go ahead and get right into it. So, who are we going to talk about today? Well, I was going to talk about one character, but in order to talk about one character, I got to talk about another one because their stories are very much intertwined. And that is going to be Gisa and Geralf. And so we begin. So Gisa and Geralf are a brother and sister from Innistrad. Because, that's what I'm talking about, the plane. And as brother and sister, they have a little bit of sibling rivalry. And the only cards we've seen them featured in is, their solo cards in the Commander Precons from like 2014, which is, Ghoulcaller Gisa and Stitcher Geralf. And then we saw them again back in Eldritch Moon as Gisa and Geralf. Now, what makes these characters, so interesting is how they are together and how when we first went to Innistrad, we didn't actually see them as cards, as creature cards, but we did hear about them through other creatures. So Geralf is a blue-aligned alchemist slash necromancer who likes to piece together body parts to create new and interesting things. Also known as a stitcher or a scabbarder. I believe that was the term I saw. It was put it right here so you can see. But that's what he was. He liked to tinker in a lab and piece things together and make these unspeakable monsters. One of his prized possession being Grimgrin. That's right. That was made by Geralf, who affectionately named him after his sister's grin. Yeah, it says that right in the lore. Anyways, so that's Geralf. He's the Stitcher. He likes to basically be Dr. Frankenstein. In a way. But more just because he can, not because he's trying to bring people back to life. He just wants to see what he could do. Now we have Ghoulcaller Gisa on the other hand. She's the black-lined necromancer. Very classic. Just raises the corpse from the grave. And yeah, that's about it. She just likes to raise a bunch of corpses. Like, a lot. Like, her and Lily would be best friends. In fact, I think they are pretty close in the story. It didn't say in their story. I know they had interactions with Lily. But you think they would be best friends. Because, Lily likes to do the same thing. Yeah. But yeah, so you have these two characters who are brother and sister. Similar interests in a way. Now, what about their history is interesting is where their lineage is from. Now, as we talked about on our last video when we talked about Thalia, we were explaining a little bit about the Church of Avacyn. Now, the head of the Church of Avacyn is what's called the Lunarch. Most of the religion in Innistrad is very lunar based because that's where a lot of the magic comes from in Innistrad is by the moon. So the Lunarch is basically a pope. He's the highest point in the church and he is stationed in the town of Thorvain where the Hell Vault is. Now, how he becomes pinnacle to their story is that the Machias the Lunarch, is actually related to Gisa and Geralf. Doesn't specify exactly how they're related, but they share the same last name. I believe it's pronounced Sinasan. I don't know. It's right here. Make the judgment for yourself. I'm probably wrong. I even looked up how to pronounce it and I couldn't figure out how to pronounce it. Anyways, so as Machias being the head of the family as well as the head of the church, Having two necromancers in the family isn't very good for publicity. So, they got kicked out and told to leave because Macias just didn't want to deal with him. He's like, just leave, just go away. I won't send people after you. Just leave. Never come back. You know, we all know how that is, right? Right? Just family doesn't like you. Black sheep of the family get kicked out. Well, that was two black sheep. They both got kicked out. Now, here's where it gets interesting with those two. So they travel, they leave Thurbane, and they're a little bit bitter about it, but they also got this little sibling rivalry going on, seeing how Geralf thinks, you know, he's just that much better because, you know, Gisa just lifts her hands and zombies get up while he toils away in a lab and makes these monstrosities and masterpieces. So, to prove who is better, they start having what's known as the Necromanic War, which per se is they like to just throw a bunch of zombies at each other. Now, throughout the process, Geralf, being Mr. I want some rules, decides to lay out some rules. First rule he said was no attacking the headquarters, no attacking the leader, no raising raising freshly killed animals or livestock or people. So he's really just trying to mess with Gisa. All these rules are just targeted so that she can't do much. Gisa eventually gets like this random magical sword. Then it suddenly says, no using magical weapons. So, I mean, like, he's like that. He's like, nah, I don't want to die, so let's just make this fair for me. He's not a very nice guy. So these two are just having their, their spats back and forth, and it's they're messing around with each other basically. Gisa, very free spirited, likes to play around, does not care whatsoever about his rules, constantly raising dead things to throw at him, and he's constantly stitching them back together and throwing them back, and they're just going back and forth. Now, where they come into the story of Innistrad, where their lore picks up. You remember that siege we talked about Thurbane? Well, that siege was orchestrated by Gisa and Geralf. They were the ones that attacked Thurbane that Lothar died, as well as Macias. So here's what happened. During the siege of Thurbane, they're basically, Gisa is leading this army of Scrabs, whatever. I'm putting the card name on there, showing you guys cards anyways. Don't judge me. So a bunch of zombies, stitched together zombies, all of them are attacking the city and just pushing its way in, trying to get through that first major wall, because the city's got these two, basically, first barricade and the second barricade. So Gisa's using the zombie army to just demolish this first wall. Now, Geralf, on the other hand, sneaks in to their old manor where the Luminar currently is, not to have a conversation, but to kill him. So he kills Macias just out of spite, just because he can. He kills Macias, locks him into a crypt, and then as he goes to leave, he runs into Liliana, who just happens to be looking for, Macias to have a conversation. And he goes, yeah, he's dead in the back room. Have at it. So yeah, their main plot point is the fact that they, sack Thurbane just so they can just take their ancestral home. That's what they wanted to do. So after they sacked Thurbane, they made it to the second wall. They couldn't get right through because of one thing. One person. It wasn't Thalia. It wasn't Lothar. It was Audric. That's right. Audric is from Innistrad. So Audric, the master tactician, was the one that pushed Gisa and her army back. So what they did was they gave up. They're like, all right, screwed them out. We're out. We lost. Bye. Have fun. They left. And so when they left, Geralt being all smug about himself, he, killed Macias, and Gisa just had some fun. She threw some dead bodies around. They all just, they're deciding they were going to go go back to the Necromantic Wars, but Geralt actually decided that he didn't want to do that, and he said, okay, we're done with these. I'm going to go refine my craft. And that's when he actually met up with another character that we've seen from a Commander Precon, which is Ludwig. Now, Ludwig is a necro alchemist as well, but he likes to be called an alchemist. So Geralf actually leaves and goes to study with Ludwig. And then by the time we see them again in the Eldritch Boon set, at that point, you have Gisa and Geralf back together. They are fighting alongside Liliana and the rest of the Gatewatch to try to imprison Emrakul. Now that's just the rest of their story. Us coming back into Innistrad. Let's hope we get more of these two crazy siblings. I look forward to it. And as always, guys, play more games!